It was Moss the Chronicler who said that the land of Valisthea is blessed in the light of the Mother Crystals, and that it was this light which finally led our forebears out of the darkness. Yet, what they saw in the light gave rise to temptation. Temptation that ever lures us back into the crystal shadow. And thus did our journey begin.
Welcome back to PloopAChoop, everyone. I'm your host, Dylan, and today I wanted to talk about my first impressions of the recently released Final Fantasy XVI demo. Anyone who knows me or Jalen knows that Final Fantasy is a massive series for us, and we cannot wait to get our hands on any bit of gameplay early, so a 2-hour demo was a real treat. I took a little bit of a different approach with this video, and I tried to just write bullet points rather than a full script to see if that maybe speeds up my writing process, and maybe I can make more videos in the future. Guess we'll find out with this one. If you like this style of content, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and with that out of the way, let's talk about Final Fantasy XVI's playable demo. Okay, well, before we get into the demo, I'm going to talk about play-by-play kind of what the demo includes, so if you haven't played yet, maybe go do that. If it's not accessible for you, feel free to stay. And then tomorrow, after this video is posted, I'm going to drop my whole playthrough with no commentary so you guys can enjoy that. But if you haven't played it yet, go ahead and go play it because I'm going to spoil the whole thing here. The game opens up with a clash between two summons, or icons as they're known in this game's universe. We control Phoenix and we're facing down the intimidating Ifrit. This fight was fast-paced and allowed the game to flex its art style, its graphical prowess, and scope as we kind of just watch these two monsters of Mythos trade fireballs and claws and just really tear at each other. In the middle of the fight, our story then cuts to our hero, Clive, and a small squadron of soldiers who are on a mission to engage in combat with Shiva's Dominant. Dominants in this world are people who are believed to be blessed by the crystals and therefore given the power to control icons. A harsh battle breaks out as we're on our way to our target location, and Clive kind of looks on as men are just tearing each other apart in this chaos. It was very Game of Thrones-esque, as was the cut to the political banter around a table while these people are arguing. Their soldiers are literally dying outside. Very Game of Thronesy. It doesn't take too long for Shiva to show herself after the surprising arrival of Titan. The icons really make the characters feel tiny as the world crumbles around the party as they chase down their target. Titan takes steps and the world just kind of falls apart, and we're forced to use alternative routes to travel around the gaps that are created by Titan moving around. Titan and Shiva are locked in a battle, and as they start to clash, ice and the earth are just shattering, and we teleport in time once more when Clive's ally is crushed by a rock and Clive himself loses consciousness. This time we are 13 years prior, and 15-year-old Clive is attempting to prove his worth as the protector for his little brother, who is the dominant to Phoenix. Our first taste of the combat system is here, and it's snappy and light with a dodging mechanic, and a mechanic to kind of close the distance by using Phoenix to kind of teleport forward, which is kind of reminiscent of Noctis being able to like warp strike. I thought that was pretty neat. Still kind of keeping that quickness to the combat if we're going to go down an action RPG route. I'm really down with the snappiness and the quickness of the combat. There's also a bigger role for magic than there was in Final Fantasy 15. Clive can actually cast fireballs and stuff, so that was pretty neat. After Clive proves his worth and defeats his teacher or sergeant or whatever, we see some family tension between Clive and his mother afterwards because she feels as though Clive is worthless because he is not the dominant for the Phoenix. Game of Thrones had to be the inspiration for this game because these character backgrounds are brutal and frigid at times. She literally goes on to say this.
You see more in him than the Phoenix did. He was rejected, Elwyn. Our household has no place for such a failure. He is worthless, a man like any other.
In front of his actual father. With Clive's father returning and him going through introductions, he lets Clive know that war is going to be on its way. And after speaking with his father, Clive is given the mission to clear out some goblins from a nearby abandoned swap town before rejoining with the larger force. Also, shouts out to Papa Clive for turning down his son's biggest hater when she tried to give him some pre-battle sloppy. King shit, he wasn't hearing anything about his son.
All is in its right place. Unlike some, you have not disgraced our noble blood.
Without men like Clive to keep us safe, your precious noble blood would long since have graced the gutter.
The mission for clearing out the goblins was pretty cool. I actually really love the goblin design as it stuck true to the medieval fantasy route with the art direction. Clive feels like a capable warrior that everyone keeps saying that he is, and proves to be a natural leader as he leads Wade and Tyler, I believe their names are, through the swamp, just taking out goblins. It was kind of cool to get the banter back and forth and see them kind of be a little nervous when there's more goblins than I thought there would be. Also making, I guess, kind of a rookie mistake by chasing the goblin leader down and running into a Morble, but Clive once again proving to be a capable fighter and takes out the Morble. Celebration is in the air as we see Joshua and his father sitting, listening to the soldiers talk about Clive's heroic deeds and how he slayed a Morble and all these things. And Joshua just seems a little bit off. We then see a touching conversation between Joshua and Clive, where Josh talks about just wanting to be able to lead his men and have the confidence that they'll believe in him and that he'll make the right choices when the time comes. This is kind of in juxtaposition of Clive feeling outcast because him not being blessed by the Phoenix and being hated by his own mother. I think this is a really interesting kind of parallel to draw, where sometimes we think that our siblings or friends or people close to us, we think like, well, they just don't understand me. And here we see two brothers jealous of each other's positions, where Joshua is jealous that all of the men look up to Clive and they see him as a natural leader. And even though Clive goes on to say that they didn't always see him that way, he wants to be in those shoes, where I'm sure Clive just wants to be accepted for who he is. After this touching conversation, everyone is tucked into their little beds, dreaming of victory and the feast they just had, and then boom, some Trojan horse shit goes down. The Empire has turned on Rosaria and plans to kill Joshua and his father before they ever get the chance to mount an offensive against the Ironblood. We get a brief time to play as Joshua, and his magic is far more powerful than Clive's. But a nice little touch that I really noticed was he has to wait to cast again, showing visible signs that this magic takes some energy and toll on him. If he does a sweeping fire attack to kind of keep enemies at bay, you can kind of see him shake that off a little bit, or if he casts his large fireball attack from his hands, he does take a couple of breaths with his hands on his knees. It seems like the frail child that Joshua is, this magic is kind of tearing him apart, sort of. Joshua and Wade work their way through the castle corridors and end up meeting with Tyler, who is gravely injured, but Joshua starts to heal him using Phoenix's magic, and then Clive and the Archduke show up with Clive's teacher. I still don't know what to call him. I guess he's like the leader of the shields or something. But after meeting up with Clive and his father, Joshua attempts to flee with the Archduke while Clive holds the enemies back. This includes an awesome fight with a Dragoon who lives up to the Final Fantasy class, zipping, crashing, and flying around. Upon finishing off this Dragoon, it is revealed that there may have been traitors within Rosaria's ranks before this attack even happened, and Clive realizes that Joshua is in danger. We then cut back to Joshua and the Archduke, who are getting on a chocobo to leave when the chocobo is killed in front of them, and two of their own soldiers turn against them. The Archduke is then slain in front of Joshua, splattering blood across his face, and the soldier slowly approaches Joshua to end his life as well. This triggers Joshua to turn into the Phoenix, and upon seeing this and getting closer, Clive turns into Ifrit, revealing that he was dominant the whole time. The two then act out the battle from the beginning, chasing each other through the undercroft of the castle. Joshua seems aware as we can hear his thoughts. It looks as though Joshua has won the long battle after stopping Ifrit from casting Hellfire, but then Ifrit bites Phoenix on the beak and holds him down as he brutally beats him. We hear Joshua's cries for Clive's help and Clive's cries for whoever is controlling Ifrit to stop.
No! Stop it! Take your hands off my brother!
Help me!
In the aftermath of the battle, Imperial soldiers walk around finishing off Rosarian troops, and Clive's mother is revealed to be a traitor. She orders her men to kill Clive, but then decides to put him on the Imperial front lines instead. And that is the demo. So here's the things that I absolutely loved about this. The story is dark and brutal. It's the kind of fantasy I love. I do like the grim, dark stories. I think that they pulled a lot from like Game of Thrones with this kind of stuff. Hearing the amount of curse words in a Final Fantasy game was very interesting, but I think it carries the tone really well. I mean, you wouldn't be saying, dang nabbit, if you're getting, like, you're watching your homie get crushed by a rock. Also, the graphics are beautiful, and I think the character designs are intricate, and they carry the darker tone of the story well. These characters look like they fit within this universe. And I feel like overall this was like the perfect demo. This is really what all demos should set out to do. This made me want the game right now in my hands. Sets up the world well. You know, there's still a lot of stuff that hasn't been explained about like the political parties and stuff, but it sets up the world well. There's plenty of action, underlying plot things that makes the story like Game of Thrones so interesting, with all the like subterfuge and political backstabbing and stuff. And I'm really interested to see if Clive, I mean, I'm sure he will, but I'm really interested to see like how he'll react to finding out that he was actually the one that killed Joshua, and if his bitch mom will ever get it. I also like that Clive is a tortured character with a ton of baggage. I'm here for it. A main character that's like super mentally fucked up. It's just right up my alley. I think the setting feels beautifully realized. The world feels lived in. It feels like a world that's been tainted with combat. We hear over and over again like another war is going to be had, and so it's a place that's been seen bloodshed before, and it's on its way to doing that again. It just feels like a world that has experienced a lot of terror. It feels like a real place, and I think that's like what all RPGs kind of set out to do. Having like the crystals and icons being used and revered as gods is a neat concept. It's almost like super weapons, where all these people could be like afraid of this big nation, but if they lose their icon or dominant and they don't have access to that power anymore, then, you know, the kingdom's kind of up for grabs. So who knows, maybe Joshua really is gone and Rosaria just fell because there was nobody to defend it. There was no fear of repercussion at that point. And a real quick note about the sound. I felt like the voice acting was really good. Voice actors nailed their performances. The soundtrack was just full of sweeping and orchestral pieces. It really fits the mood of what's happening. You know, like the kind of sneaky tone of moving around the village and killing these goblins versus like these massive epic like god-like songs that are playing when Joshua and Clive are fighting in their icon forms. I just think that the soundtrack and the voice direction were really, really, really good for this game so far. I'm so hyped for this game, and I can't wait to dive into it on June 22nd. If you guys were able to play the demo, please do. It's amazing, but if not, I will be posting my entire playthrough with no commentary so you guys can just watch it and enjoy it. Let me know in the comments what you think about Final Fantasy 16 so far. Do you think this has the potential to be Game of the Year? I do. I don't see anything beating this, really. I mean, it's amazing so far, and I really can't wait to just sit down and no-life this for a good number of hours. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed, make sure you like and subscribe. And until next time, peace.